absolute devastation all along the east coast of the United States, the southeast coast in particular, as the fallout from Hurricane Helene comes into focus. Why haven't we been seeing this everywhere? I have not been seeing this everywhere. This is a massive, massive weather event in the United States that's absolutely devastated thousands and thousands of Americans who are struggling and dying right now. Americans in this region are just starting to think about rebuilding their lives, their homes, their communities. And this story, given where it is across North Carolina, particularly hard hit, Georgia, Florida, could also now have major political implications at just weeks away from the presidential election. At least, it's going to be more than this. At least 115 people have lost their lives so far. They are still just beginning to go through the rubble that's been left behind. Have you seen the flooding, the massive flooding? Homes, all you can see is the rooftops on block after block in Western North Carolina. Hundreds of people remain unaccounted for at this hour as a result of that catastrophic flooding and damage. Look at this. Look at this. There's just nothing left. There's nothing left of some towns. This is in North Carolina. President Biden spoke this morning about it from the White House, saying he has activated FEMA and the National Guard. He signed disaster declarations in Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, and more areas as well. He says he's going to visit the area as soon as possible. He spent the weekend in Delaware at his beach house, but great. I'm glad that now that it's Monday and we're between 11 and 4, he's actually taking it seriously. I'm sorry, but get off your beach and get to work. Okay. He says he wants to avoid being a distraction and therefore expects to be there later this week. I'm just going to say it. I don't believe him. I don't believe he's worried about being a distraction. That can be an issue with presidents. I believe he's tired. He didn't get off his ass until late in this crisis. Then he finally was told it was an election year. So he did what any president would do. But I don't believe he even has the wherewithal to want to travel or go down there. Former President Trump is heading to Georgia this afternoon to be briefed on the damage. Governor Brian Kemp, he flew over parts of Georgia on Monday, surveying the damage this morning, and said it was unprecedented what he was seeing. The amount of devastation so far inland, and saying, quote, it looks like a 250-mile wide tornado has hit. Wow. I agree with that when you see it with your own eyes. His Democratic opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, is coming off a West Coast campaign swing and traveling back to Washington, D.C. right now to be briefed by FEMA. According to Politico, she will visit the region when the time is right. We've heard little from her on the matter other than social media posts and a brief mention at her Las Vegas rally last night. Joining me now to discuss it all, Victor Davis Hanson, senior fellow at the Hoover Institution and author of the book, The Case for Trump, which has just been updated and re-released in time for this election. VDH, welcome back to the show. This is so bad. It's absolutely bad. In this region, we have thousands of homes and roads, including major highways and bridges, washed away. Reading here from Political Playbook, the AP and CNN collating their reporting. Millions remain without power, water, or reliable communications. Property losses certainly to be counted in the tens of billions of dollars. Some of the roads and bridges that FEMA needs to do its job are not there anymore. Electricity could be out a week or longer. Emergency services stretched far too thin. Communications infrastructure is in tatters. This is proven already to be among the deadliest U.S. hurricanes in the last 50 years. The loss of life, look at these pictures. The loss of life, home, community is just, it's hard to wrap your arms around. Sorry, Deb, where is this? North Carolina, where? Biltmore Village, North Carolina. And all along Western North Carolina, this was not a coastal thing. This is on the west coast of the state where it looks like this hurricane just sat with a deluge of rain causing, as Brian Kemp said, what looked like a 250-mile wide tornado that hit in Georgia and then South Carolina and North Carolina. And we're still seeing people stranded on rooftops. It has echoes of Katrina. Victor, what do you make of it?
Well, the media seems to be ignoring it. I don't want to say it's political, but it seems like it is. I mean, it's much more like the coverage of East Palestine, Ohio, and the railroad wreck and the toxic cloud than it is the 2005 coverage of Katrina. And I remember when George Bush flew over Katrina, he'd just been reelected, and he looked out the window, and they took a picture of that, and they said, the headline said, Bush flies over. I mean, he went immediately when he landed, he went out there and he waited around, and he said some silly things. He put his arm around, said, Brownie, great job, which it wasn't done. But the point I'm making is the media used that iconic moment of him up in a jet with people struggling on the ground. And his administration never recovered that second term. People
right.
had that was institutionalized, that he was supposedly callous. And yet the media doesn't seem to have the same interest as they did with Katrina. And again, it reminds me of the way they just ignored the plight of the people in Ohio and East Palestine. And these things are really important historically in an election year. Remember when Chris Christie hugged Obama about the New Jersey storm right before the 2000, everybody said, wow, Christie endorses Obama's FEMA treatment of the storms in Jersey, so he's okay. And yet, the way that a president or a candidate reacts to these disasters, that means a lot, because it shows whether they're empathetic and competent. And I don't know why. I think you're right about Biden, but I think Harris, for some reason, I don't know what it is, she doesn't want to go down there and get waiters on, and she loves photo ops at the border. But you would think that she would be down there consulting, et cetera, et cetera. I know that they took a photo op in a plane where she's pictured writing on a pad with her ear pods or something, as if she's in a control command center up 40,000 feet up in the air, but it's not the same. And again, the media knows that this could be damaging to her reelection, so they're not going to cover it, at least in the way that they felt that it could be damaging to George Bush's second term. And they really, I mean, that was a terrible thing, Katrina, but he was on 24/7 as insensitive, racist, terrible president, just because he had initially flown over, and he never recovered from that. And the mayor just lambasted him every Nagin, I think his name was,
Nagin, that's right.
He ended up in prison. But Bush did he ended up doing a pretty good job, and yet it was devastating for his presidency.
The initial response was so slow. You're right. He never recovered. It was a stain from which he never recovered. This thing hit North Carolina on Friday. And the pictures started coming out on Saturday, which is absolutely devastating. Even worse yesterday. Last night, well into the devastation, the loss of life, men, women, children, pets, the entire devastation and destruction of communities, Kamala Harris attended an LA fundraiser. This tweet goes out from Matt Visor. Kamala Harris is at an LA fundraiser with Stevie Wonder, Keegan-Michael Key, Sterling Brown, Demi Lovato, Jessica Alba, Lily Tomlin, Alanis Morissette, and Holly Bailey performing. Menu: duck egg roll, goat cheese honey blueberry ball, beef Wellington, lobster roll, and crab cakes. This was September 29th at 7:48 p.m. The devastation was ongoing, Victor. How dare she?
I know it. I don't think she's in touch. I mean, she went down to the border and people looked at that gold. She had a Tiffany's gold necklace, reportedly. And she was dressed up like she was in command. But I think the problem is that they are so terrified that if she's in any impromptu ad hoc moment, she can lose the election with a word salad of, 30 seconds. And they think that she's not well liked by the public. And that people have got this impression, I think accurately, that she's artificial and canned. So if she were to go down there and put on waiters and walk around as she did at the border, I think it would be sort of like an Ivy League president going to the ones that have been fired going to a synagogue and explaining why they're there to help stop anti-Semitism. It's counterproductive is what I'm trying to say. And that the border photo op, I didn't think helped. I think it hurt her. And I think if she were going to go there, she would say something and it wouldn't be good. And they know that. And therefore they're going to keep her out of that. And when you force multiply that by a non-compos mentis president, you have no one in control of the government that's on site. But that's not new. They did the same thing during East Palestine with that toxic flume.
The town we were showing with the just shards of wood is Chimney Rock, North Carolina. The reports are it's just gone. I don't know how large the town is, but the reports are it's gone. The town is gone. This is the picture we keep seeing, the video for the listening audience. Yeah. It's just absolute devastation. There's nothing. It's not even like a tornado where you can see clumps of houses remaining. This looks like just shards of wood, almost like massive, large toothpicks flattened out. And then every once in a while, you see what appears to be a little bit of a rooftop. There are reports of grandmas and grandpas on top of roofs with grandchildren trying to get help from overhead and dying. There's all sorts of absolutely devastating personal stories that are starting to emerge from what's happening there. And the federal response to this, Victor, will be an issue. I've lived through enough of these as a reporter to know there's just no way it won't be, even with this media, even understanding that we are 5.5, 6 weeks out from an election. Now, they will run cover for this administration, but if there is not an all hands on deck situation to try to help these Americans suffering right now, this media, they love ratings more than they love anything. And they will be forced to send the choppers out there and see the people waving for help, as we've seen all over Elon Musk's X this morning. Imagine waking up one day to find out your home no longer belongs to you, that someone somewhere has stolen your property right out from under you. It sounds unthinkable, but it is a sad reality for some American homeowners and a risk for anyone that owns property. House stealing, that's what the FBI calls it. And it's a form of real estate fraud, where scammers leverage loopholes in the system to fraudulently transfer your home's title into their name. And then they take out loans against your property or even sell it behind your back. By the time you find out, the scammer's long gone, leaving you, the legitimate homeowner, to clean up the mess. But right now, triple lock protection is available through HomeTitleLock.com, offering 24/7 title monitoring, alerts, and restoration services. You can sign up today at HomeTitleLock.com and use the promo code Megyn for 30 days of protection for free and a comprehensive title scan to make sure you're not already a victim. That's promo code Megyn and HomeTitleLock.com, or just use the link below. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.